Welcome to our channel, where we delve into the complex world of global economics and politics. In today's video, we explore a pressing question. Can the US dollar withstand the mounting pressure from Russia and China amidst the BRICS boycott? Before we dive into the discussion, let's understand the value of this topic and its potential impact on your financial outlook. There is a growing discussion about de-dollarization. Recently, Alexander Babakov, deputy chairman of Russia's state Duma, announced in New Delhi that Russia is taking the lead for creating a new currency for cross-border trade among the BRICS nations: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Following this, Brazil's president, Luiz Inàcio Lula de Silva, expressed his agreement in Beijing, questioning why countries must rely on the dollar for their trade. Recent developments challenge the idea that the US dollar's stability relies on its dominance over weaker currencies like the euro, yen, and yuan. An economist suggests that Europe is stagnant, Japan is aging, and China is restrictive. However, a BRICS currency would present a new scenario, a coalition of emerging nations surpassing not only the US, but the entire G7 in GDP. The desire of foreign governments to break free from reliance on the US dollar is not new. Talks about dethroning the dollar have been ongoing since the 1960s, but have yet to yield any concrete results. Currently, the dollar is used in 84.3% of cross-border trade, while the Chinese yuan accounts for only 4.5%. The Kremlin's history of using deception as a statecraft tool also raises doubts about Russia's claims. Many practical questions regarding the support for Babakov's proposal among other BRICS nations still remains unanswered. However, from an economic standpoint, a currency issued by the BRICS nations shows promise. Despite being in the early planning stages and lacking clarity on various practical aspects, such as a currency has the potential to challenge or replace the US dollar as the reserve currency among BRICS members. Unlike previous contenders like the digital yuan, this hypothetical currency, referred to as the BRIC, could genuinely disrupt the dollar's dominant position. The BRICS countries face a significant obstacle in their quest to reduce their dependence on the US dollar. Currently, they rely on bilateral agreements that use non-dollar currencies like the yuan for trade, particularly between China and Russia. However, Russia's reluctance to solely source its imports from China creates a big challenge. After bilateral transactions, Russia often holds the proceeds in dollar-denominated assets to facilitate purchases from the rest of the world, which still predominantly uses the dollar for trade. If China and Russia exclusively use the BRIC for their trade, Russia would no longer need to hold proceeds in dollars. Instead, BRIC would be used for all of its imports, eliminating the reliance on dollars and advancing de-dollarization. Is it realistic for the BRICS nation to exclusively use BRIC for trade? Yes, because they have the capacity to finance their entire important bills independently. In 2022, the BRICS collectively achieved a trade surplus of $387 billion, largely driven by China's contributions. BRICS has a unique advantage in achieving self-sufficiency in global trade. Unlike proximity-based unions, BRICS can leverage their regional economic strength, encouraging worldwide trading using the BRIC. For example, if Thailand uses the BRIC for trade with China, Brazil can still import goods like shrimp from Thai exporters, ensuring diversity. Goods can also bypass trade restrictions by going through a third country, as seen with Chinese-made toys reaching the US via Vietnam. If BRICS adopts a strict brick or bust trade approach, it reveals the worst-case scenario for consumers. Despite attempts to isolate Russia, goods from the US and Europe still reach the country. Though there are costs, it's not disastrous. However, a stronger desire for de-dollarization in BRICS nations highlights potential consequences and increases the appeal of de-dollarization. To replace the dollar as the reserve currency, safe assets must be available for storing funds when not actively used for trade. So is it feasible to envision the BRIC fulfilling this requirement? Yes. As tensions rise, can the dollar withstand the pressure from Russia and China? Subscribe and join the conversation below. Implications are vast. Will the US dollar remain resilient or not? Like the video if you're intrigued and share your insights in the comment section below. Make sure you stay informed and engaged. Subscribe for better updates and be a part of our vibrant community. Now let's analyze the BRICS boycott together. To begin with, since the BRICS countries have a surplus in both trade and balance of payments, the BRIC may not necessarily need to attract foreign investments. The BRICS governments could employ a combination of incentives and regulations to encourage their own households and businesses to invest in BRIC assets using their savings. This approach could effectively create a market for BRIC assets through a combination of coercion and subsidies. In the middle of our analysis, it's crucial to emphasize the topic's significance for you. A BRICS boycott's potential impact on the US dollar goes beyond finance, influencing global trade, geopolitics, and your daily life. Understanding the dollar's resilience is vital for informed decision-making in our interconnected world. Assets denominated in the BRIC currency would possess unique characteristics that are likely to make them exceptionally appealing to foreign investors. One significant drawback of gold as an asset class for global investors is its lack of interest payments, despite its value as a risk-reducing diversifier. However, the BRIC, which is intended to be backed by gold and other valuable metals such as rare earth metals, has the potential to offer interest-paying assets. This distinctive feature could make BRIC-denominated assets highly attractive to investors who seek the combined benefit of interest-bearing bonds and the diversification advantages of gold. To make BRIC bonds appealing as interest-bearing alternatives to gold, it's crucial to minimize perceived default risks. This can be done by shortening maturity periods or adjusting prices to reflect risk, ensuring adequate compensation for investors. If market participants seek higher yields, BRICS governments are likely to meet these demands for stability and attractiveness of the BRIC. To be fair, the BRIC would introduce various practical challenges. Since it would primarily be used for international trade rather than domestic circulation within any specific country, it would complicate the role of national central bankers in the BRICS countries. Establishing a supranational central bank similar to the European Central Bank to oversee the BRIC would also require a lot of effort. These challenges, however, are not necessarily insurmountable. Despite the complex geopolitical dynamics among BRICS members, a BRICS currency would symbolize collaboration in a specific domain with their interests aligned. While countries like India and China may have conflicting security interests, they both share a common goal of reducing reliance on the dollar. They can engage in cooperation based on shared interests while also competing in other areas. The BRIC would not necessarily strip the dollar of its dominance completely, but rather reduce its influence within a certain territory. Even if the BRICS countries were to de-dollarize, the majority of the world would still continue to use the dollar, resulting in a global monetary order that is more multipolar rather than unipolar. The global role of the dollar has always had a positive and negative implications for the United States. While it grants the US the ability to impose sanctions, it also increases the cost of American goods and reduces export competitiveness, resulting in job losses. The negative impact on the domestic front has been growing while the effectiveness of using sanctions as a foreign policy tool has been declining. Jared Bernstein, head of the White House Council of Economic Advisors, and others recognize that the global role of the dollar comes at the expense of domestic jobs and competitiveness. As the US economy shrinks relative to the rest of the world, these costs have increased. The use of financial sanctions has been a traditional advantage of the dollar's global dominance, but as the US perceives its security interest in competitions with countries like China and Russia, sanctions are proving less effective. If the BRIC were to replace the dollar as the reserve currency of the BRICS, the reactions would vary. Officials from BRICS countries with anti-imperialist perspectives, certain Republicans in the US Senate, and top economists in the Biden administration may support the shift. However, former President Donald Trump and the US National Security Committee, with whom he often clashes, are likely to oppose it. While the dollar's dominance won't end suddenly, the emergence of the BRIC would gradually erode its position. As we near the end of this insightful exploration, we must reflect on the significance of the US dollar's ability to withstand the pressure exerted by Russia and China. This topic illuminates the delicate balance of power in the global financial system and prompts us to evaluate the future of international trade and currency dominance. We hope this discussion has shed some light on the complexities at hand. And that will be all for today, so thank you for joining us. If you've enjoyed our discussion on the BRICS boycott and the US dollar, make sure to subscribe for more captivating content. Now, it's your turn. We'd love to hear your thoughts and suggestions for the next topic and your opinions on this topic, so feel free to comment down below, and whilst you're down there, hit that like button to show your support. Stay tuned for our next enlightening video, and thank you for watching.